confusion of the confused ones. The confusions are made by who already live confused with themselves. We do not have anything to do with anyone's delay, and a confused one does not know what he thinks, does not know what he says, he does not know what he speaks, does not know what he wants. The unconsciousness of the confused ones is such that he lives dizzy, without knowing what he wants, without knowing what he does. The natural of all confused ones is the disequilibrium. The disequilibrium makes the person confused, whereas the equilibrated one is not confused, and that is why he knows how to put things in their places, knows how to distinguish the good from evil, the well from ill, due to being conscious. Who lives confused with themselves, makes confusion where there is no confusion, because he already lives confused with himself. The confused one does not know how to distinguish right from wrong because he is confused. Then he says, what is right is wrong and what is wrong is right. And so, never meeting with the right due to being confused with oneself. And, because of that, makes confusion with everything, thinks that everything is confusing, due to living in confusion with himself. Those like that are ill in the brain, and an ill person keeps varying like that. The normal state of those ill ones is to vary, and those who vary is unbalanced and keeps making confusions, due to his sick condition, where there is no confusion to be made. And the world is full of those ill ones. The confusion is natural, while the person does not know the way things are, but after knowing it more or less, confusions are not admissible. Confusion is for those who do not know what it is all about, but for those who know what it is all about, only being sick to keep varying, not knowing whether it is right or wrong. Those who live varying, it is that for being varying, do not know whether he is right or wrong, makes confusion because he does not know how to interpret reality as it is. Only those who live confused with themselves cannot interpret things the way they are. And so, there are people with appearance of well and healthy, and they are only appearances. In reality, he is an ill one, lives dizzy, confused with himself and everything. Those ones end up bad, due to already being bad, and that is why they live badly, and the good one lives well. The book of the absolution of the condemnation to death. You will no longer be mortals. In the book Universe and Disenchantment is all the transcription of the absolution of this condemnation to death. The world is an electric and magnetic conjunct, and due to being so, it is that all that exists in the world is of electric and magnetic fluidic origin. Therefore, the most powerful force of that fluid electric and magnetic conjunct is in the fluids. It is the most powerful force of generation, formation and creation. Then, in the fluids is everything. From the fluids depend on the formation of all beings. All beings are of electric and magnetic fluidic formation, and due to all being from fluidic origin, you are unstable as you are. You are generated, are born, grow, flourish, and disappear because the fluid passes, the fluid is passing, the fluid is all that comprises the generation, formation, and creation. Then, due to everything being of fluidic origin, each being has its fluid, each being is constituted by a fluid in this nature that is varying and deformed. There is infinity of fluids, all different from one another, and for existing this infinity of fluids different from one another, it is that everyone is different from one another, it is that everything is different from one another, because everything is from fluidic origin. Then, in the fluid is everything, in the fluid is the formation of this apparent everything, and in so being, each one with one's fluid that provided one's formation, that generated the microbes for the formation of one's body, each being with its fluid. Then, that fluid, the immunization catches and takes it to rational plane, the place of origin, and then the person will be no longer born here, because what made the person to be born here, it is not in the heat anymore, in this deformation. And so, there is no effect without cause. The cause for the microbe is the fluid, the cause for the body is the microbe. If there is no fluid, there is no microbe. If there are no microbes, there are no beings. If there is no heat, there is no fluid. If there is no sun, there is no heat. And if there were no virtues of the bodies before these ones, which they were losing and they kept gathering to form the light focus, the sun would not exist either. If there were no inhabitants that left the rational part to enter the part of the plane not yet ready for progress, this deformation would not exist either. And so, there it is how the salvation of the person is done. There it is how everyone will return to their place of origin, because you are from rational origin and it had to come the day for you to know your origin, because you became rational animals out of your place of origin, rational plane, up there, where the others are with their progress of purity. Then, through rational immunization, that fluid that gave the formation of your being is caught and taken to the place of origin, rational plane. And so, the extinction of that deformation will come through the progress of the transformation of this deformation to the natural state, which is a pure, clean, and perfect rationals. And then, everyone being in their true place of pure, clean, and perfect rationals, of rational animals due to being deformed, and going back to the place of origin of pure, clean, and perfect rationals. Therefore, do not waste time, care to read to get to know your origin, your formation, how you were formed, where you came from, where you are going to, and so on. The fluid is everything, everything of good and everything of bad. There is the bad fluid and there is the good fluid. The bad fluid is so because it is deformed. But once moving to rational plane, it becomes good, because evil is only here in matter and only here in matter that it is deformed into fire, it became bad. In matter, ones talk about good fluid, but no fluid is good, because matter is bad. Then, every fluid is bad because it is deformed. But once leaving here, from within fire, it returns to its natural state, because it cools down, it loses its deformed part and returns to the natural of pure, clean, and perfect on rational plane. Here in matter ones talk about good and bad, but everything is bad, because it is deformed, because it is of bad origin, because it is from material origin, and in matter there is nothing good. Exists apparently, but appearances are not true. If you were good, you would not be there in matter. Matter cannot be good, it is enough to be matter to be evil. Then, where is the good in matter? Nowhere. Where is the goodness in matter? Nowhere. However, the fluid is deformed there, as bad, in that material deformation. Once leaving here, that part of the enchantment, of bad leaves in the fluid goes back to become pure, because it cools down, it leaves from within the fire over here, from within this electric and magnetic conjunct, going back to its place of origin. It is a body with life, but a different life, because it is a pure life, from there among the pure ones, from their place of origin of pure, clean, and perfect rationals. Therefore, life is fluidic. The fluid is the causer of this life, it is the causer of these beings, it is the causer of everything that exists in the world, the electric and magnetic fluid. There it is a little piece of the formation of the beings for a better illustration of what the fluid is. The fluid comes from the heat comes from the sun, and the sun comes from the virtues of the bodies before these ones that were losing them and they were gathering, from there came the origin of the light focus. Then, there it is where you came from, how you came, where you are going to, and how you are going, the beginning of this enchantment and the end of it, the end of the enchantment. Due to everything being from fluidic origin, it is that everyone and everything is different from one another. The fluid is a living being reproducer of different lives, because there is no equal among the material beings. The same way the human being is a reproducing apparatus of sun brothers, the fluid is also an apparatus of reproduction, but always of the same being. It always reproduces the same being, not many beings, because each being has its fluid. And so, the fluid is a body of a living being of eternal life, different from the material body, as there are inhabitants from space there, which are electric and magnetic fluidic bodies, different, completely different from the bodies of electric and magnetic fluidic matter. Therefore, the fluid of this body, while it remains deformed there in that electric and magnetic fluidic conjunct, the being corresponding to it will always be the same to be born there, and for it not to be born there anymore, it is necessary that the person to know what rational immunization is, to become immunized. Once immunized, the immunization catches that fluid, that body that is deformed there, and takes it to the place of origin. Once this body, which is in fire in this electric and magnetic conjunct, leaving from here out, it cools down and returns to the natural. Then, it will continue the life there, together with the others on rational plane, with its progress of purity, and with time, the extinction of this body in electric and magnetic fluidic matter will come about. The extinction of what made the person be born over here comes, and because it will no longer be here, the person will not be born anymore. And so, there it is, the end of the world, how it is going to be and has to be the end of this frightening enchantment. There it is the end, and there it is the beginning of where you came from, how you came, where you are going to, and how you are going to. There is no male or female fluid. The fluid is only one being. Now, in the formation of those animals of the enchantment, it is that there are this deformation of two beings, of two sexes, the females and the male. Then, the most important knowledge of all times has come to the world, for the end of all of that filthiness, of that hell, of that place of suffering that seemed without end. Everyone suffering without knowing the beginning or the end of all that bitter and insatiable life. The world full of dissatisfaction, full of worries without limit, without end, living like crazy ones, like a mental institution where no one comprehends one another and no one understands one another, and at the same time you understand each other, you misunderstand one another. Everyone imprisoned here in matter, prisoners of this life of evil, without knowing the beginning and much less the end of this apparent everything to be like this. Then, many tired of suffering, many times discouraged and saying, I would like to sleep and not wake up any more, because there is no one to stand to live in a world like this, with the permanence of suffering. Many, discouraged, even ask for death, and others saying, hopefully my time will come because I am already tired of living this life. Every day is the same thing, every day is the same thing, and always unsatisfactory news ahead. I hope that my day will come. If it has to be tomorrow, make it today, because I know this day has to come. If it has to be tomorrow, maybe it today. And so, many ones discouraged, and very discouraged, of so much suffering and disappointed with the disillusions and laughing many times not to cry. The worries are so many, that the living being wants to sleep and cannot do so. The watch does not stop working. And so, today arriving to everyone's hand the most important discovery, which is rational immunization, bringing the knowledge of everything and everyone for the returning of everyone to his place of origin, because the way life is going, where would you end up like this, with the multiplication of suffering? Where would you end up? To the extinction of this generation by the progress of degeneration, and going so to a much worse deformation than this one, which would be of quadruped creatures. Today, rational immunization in everyone's hands to embargo the extinction of this deformation to another much worse. And so, joyful with a brightened knowledge with the immunization. Everyone happy and satisfied. There is little time for the end of everyone's condemnation, the end of condemnation to death. You will no longer be condemned ones, because there it is the knowledge for the absolution from the martyrdoms, from suffering and from agonies. There it is in your hands rational immunization. The absolution of this condemnation, condemned to suffer and condemned to death. At last, what many people do not expect it, and will be surprised with the absolution from death. And so, you will immediately care to be immunized, to be absolved from this punishment sought by the millenary-owned free will, sought by the free will, which still today reigns among all. And so, everyone very happy and very much happy, due to having the transcription in hands, of your absolution, which is rational immunization. Much happiness in the entire world, many festivities, which could not be any other way, after knowing this great reality of where you came from, how you came, why you came, where you are going to, how you are going, and why you are going. The absolution from the condemnation of death. You will no longer be mortals, because the return to the place of origin, rational plane, is there. The fluid that gave the being of rational animals, and through rational immunization, going to its place of origin, which is rational plane, and ending, here, the enchantment of the rational animals. Then, you were condemned to suffer and to die, and you did not know the reason of that condemnation, and today, being aware and knowing the reason of all of this, because there is no effect without cause. If you were made like this, in these conditions, is because there was the cause, and now you know the cause and the effect. The book for the absolution of suffering and death, universe and disenchantment, which contains all the history of the generation, creation, and formation of this place of bitterness, the enigmatic and mysterious enchantment. Everyone there keeping the mysteries and the enigmas in search of what? Of nothing, without knowing anything of right, without knowing anything about yourselves, and considering this enchantment an enigma, and considering yourselves enigmatics. And today, the solutions of all these enigmas, of this deceiving place, of this deceit for remedying until it is not possible anymore, of this deceit of adventures, of this deceit of dreams, dreaming with the open eyes, and others thinking that life was this one indeed, and at the same time contradicting themselves, due to not standing the suffering. Disenchantment. Disenchantment means, you disenchanted yourself, you saved yourself, freedom, you were enchanted, condemned to suffer and to die, you were absolved. Therefore, there it is the disenchantment, which means the absolution from the death penalty. You were mortals due to being enchanted. You now stopped being mortals due to being disenchanted. You disenchanted yourself, you saved yourself. Then, there it is the absolution from the condemnation of death, the absolution of the mortals. Once immunized, you will no longer be born there, as condemned to suffer and condemned to death. There it is the absolution, the disenchantment of all through rational immunization. Rational means pure, clean, and perfect, it means salvation. You were deformed, imperfect, full of defects, condemned to suffer and to die. Now, with rational immunization, next to the pure, clean, and perfect ones, due to you communicating with them and united to rational immunization. You are united to rational immunization, you are united with the pure, clean, and perfect ones. It is suffice to be rational to be pure, clean, and perfect, without defect. Then, there it is, the absolution of the enchantment, the absolution of the enchanted ones, the absolution of the mortals, the absolution from the condemnation to death, because, once immunized, you will no longer be born here and from there, the end of the condemnation to death. You will no longer continue to be mortals, as the Pharisees say, the remission of sins. In the book of the absolution of the condemnation to death, universe and disenchantment, you already know very well the crime you committed of leaving rational plane to enter the part that was not yet ready to enter in progress. This was the crime you committed, and that is why everyone is a criminal. And because everyone is a criminal, it is that everyone suffers. The good one suffers, the bad one suffers, the one who never did any evil to anyone suffers, the innocent ones suffer, everyone suffers, due to everyone being a criminal due to the crime you committed by the free will you had and have, of getting out from a part and getting into another. And today, in your hands, all the historical of all this happening. All the historical of the past, of the present and of the future. The past is of where you came from, how you came, and why you came. The present, everyone back to the place of origin, and the future, being pure, clean, and perfect rationals. Therefore, there it is, the absolution from the death penalty by the crime you committed, for you to be absolved one day and know the reason of that condemnation, as you are knowing, this horrible suffering. You knew that everyone suffered, but you did not know why. You knew that everyone died, but you did not know why. You lived there like that without knowing why, vegetating like any other animal that is unaware of its origin, that is unaware of its being, that is unaware of its formation, that does not know how to describe the reason for being like that, living like an animal that does not know why it lives, that does not know why it was born, much less what it was born for, living like an animal that is unaware of its being, the reason for its being and the reason for all beings, the reason why everything is like that. An animal is that does not know how to answer any of this. Then, the animals only know if they are taught, they only know what they learn, for them to understand each other more or less, because the animal lives more often in misunderstandings than in understandings, and that is why they are always misunderstood. These are the reasons for the confusions. Then, the animal, today, knowing and being aware of all the historical of its generation and formation, and today, knowing and being aware of where it came from, how it came, why it ended up here with this life like that, where it is going to, how it is going, why it is going, and what goes, which is the fluid that gave the formation to the animal, for the formation of the body in electric and magnetic fluidic matter, there with that apparent life, for not being the true life, dreaming with its open eyes and seeing the failure of all disillusioned ones. Who get an illusion with what is not theirs, which is life, which belongs to no one, and that is why you end up without it, without expecting it. Due to you being disillusioned ones, it is that suffering has always been the best friend of the disillusioned ones, who get an illusion with what does not belong to them, which is life, which does not belong to anyone, and that is why you end up without it, without expecting it. And for being disillusioned ones, suffering is always the best friend of everyone, because the ones in illusion are unaware of their true being, and due to not knowing their true being, they stay in illusion with everything they see, they get an illusion with everything that comprises life, this apparent life that does not belong to anyone, in illusion with life, and at the same time knowing that life has no warranties, that life is not right, that from one moment to the next it is over, and to die. There is no age. and due to being an illusion, it is that from there comes the greed and the ambition for the things thereof nothing. If life is worth nothing, if life has no warranties, if life is not ours, why so much greed with life's belongings, if it is worthless? All of that because you are enchanted ones and the enchanted one is an illusion, the enchantment is an illusion, and that is why everyone lives of appearances, appearing what you are not, in illusion with the marvels of this nothing, with the apparent marvels, with the apparent beauties, everything of ridicule, of beasts. The animal is greedy, ambitious, it gets into illusion with everything and suffers the consequences of all of this, thinking that everything is his, in a bit he dies and everything is left behind. Then, animal, what was the use of so much unconsciousness for? What so much waste of time with this nothingness, for everything to end in nothing? This is to see how much an illusion the animal is, a betrayer of himself. Then, animals care to know what rational immunization is for you to be absolved from the condemnation to suffer and from the condemnation to die. Stop worrying with this nothingness, because everything ends in nothing. Life ends in nothing and everything ends into nothing. Care to know what rational immunization is to end the suffering in the entire world. It is proved, it is the proof of the nullity of all illusions and fantasies of the animals that get in illusion with themselves and with everything. Then, there it is, the divulgation, definition of everyone and everything, the beginning of everything and the end of everything, where you came from, how you came, where you are going to, and how you are going. The mysteries, the enigmas, all unveiled, not existing mysteries and enigmas anymore, for being there, all the solution of the formation of everything and creation of everyone. Now, you need only read repeatedly to get to know well rational immunization, the greatest treasure, the disenchantment of all. Everyone there agonizing without knowing how to provide a solution to your being, and today, providing the knowledge, the beginning and end of the formation of the world. And so, brightened by rational immunization, brightened due to returning to your place of origin, brightened due to knowing where you came from, how you came, and all transition. And so, rich steps, rich days, rich hours, brilliant steps, brilliant days, brilliant hours, happy steps, happy days, happy hours, due to having in your hands the great forthcoming, which is rational immunization. You live there, in that world, counting on each other, and today you count with rational immunization. Today you already have who to appeal to, whereas you never had before. Today you already have who to count on, which is rational immunization, whereas as enchanted ones, you did not have anyone to appeal to. Appeal to whom? As you have always appealed to. To appeal for what? If appealing solved anything, since long you would have your situation defined. And today, with rational immunization, everything is resolved due to arriving at everyone's hands the true one. Who are right will always be well and who are wrong will always be bad, the bad destroys itself. Every enchanted one is confused. Due to it being enchanted, nothing of truth he knows. The natural of the enchanted one is confusing, due to not knowing the truth of truths. The enchanted one does not know himself. Due to one not knowing oneself, he thinks he knows a lot and in truth he does not know anything and ends up in nothing, without knowing why he did not know the reason of him being like that, the reason of everyone being like that, where you came from, how you came, where you are going to, how you are going. The enchanted one unknowing your being, ignoring everything and considering himself a great knower and seeing the nullity of your being and of everything. Valorizing matter and realizing that it is a great mistake, maintaining the mistake because you do not know anything. Today, everyone surprised because they know the truth of truths, seeing and knowing that they fought a lot within this enchantment for nothing and ending up in nothing. Then, what is the knowledge of nothing worth? It is worth nothing. What is the enchantment worth? The same. The enchanted one does not know what he says, does not know what he wants, does not know where he came from, where he is going to, does not know his being, the reason for being so, due to being enchanted, without knowing why he was born here, much less what he was born for, ignoring his origin, due to being enchanted, clogged, without solution. Now, you shall consider yourselves very happy, because you have all of this transcription in hands of what enchantment is and of what disenchantment is. You are to live the rest of your lives very happy, because you found the compass for your formation and creation and you guiding yourselves by that compass, which is rational immunization. The rational compass indicating the right and the wrong, the good and the bad, the enchantment and the disenchantment. these three reigns of the animals, the sun, the moon, and the stars, the enchanted one guilty for all of this, did not know anything, and today, disenchanted, knowing everything. Many celebrations, much happiness in the entire world due to everyone having one's situation defined, divulged, and the situation of the world in general. This is a critique of the enchantment, of the great wisdom of nothing, due to everything coming from nothing. What all this wisdom of nothing for? It is an apparent value, it is worth nothing because appearances are no truths. You are in illusion for being betrayed by an apparent being, by an apparent wisdom, living of appearances. Appearances are no truths. You are betrayed by this false wisdom of nothing, only to pretend until you cannot anymore and remedy until you cannot stand it anymore, turning life like that dissatisfying. At one time the person is encouraged, at the next discouraged, and so living terribly like that. At one time standing it, at the next not standing it, turning life into an adventure and everyone living of adventures, as the one who says, I will make of this life an adventure. Living in this disequilibrium, because you did not have the disenchantment in your hands. Today, having changed all of this state of things, then the person coming to know what he wants, for having his situation defined, knowing where he came from and where he is going to. You found the right route, you found your true origin, you found out where you came from and where you are going to, you found the true support, having the true conviction of knowing why you live on this ground of mud and suffering. There it is, rational immunization to put an end to all these gallows. You knew you could not live over here, but you did not know why. Today everyone knowing, everything is clear as water and really clear, the historic of this stage, which is the world, and now it opened for you to have the knowledge about yourself and of all truth about your being. The greatest present that humanity got for no longer be born here on earth, rational immunization, which catches the fluid that gave origin to your being, and from that, you will no longer be born here. There it is, the end of all in this world and the end of the world. The immunization catches the fluid that gave origin to your body and takes it to rational plane, the place you came from, the place of everyone's origin. Then, there it is, the end of all in this world and the end of the world, through rational immunization, the greatest present of the world that humanity got. The eternal salvation, the return to the place of origin through rational immunization, because you are from that origin, that why you are rational animals, due to you being of rational origin, returning now to your place of origin through rational immunization. You were clean, pure, perfect, rationals without defects, like the others up there, and you deformed yourselves into rational animals due to free will. Today, with the plant of all description of the formation of this enchanted world, everyone knowing where you came from, how you came, where you are going to, and how you are going, through rational immunization. There it is, in your hands, there on earth, the end of all and the end of the world, proved and confirmed by all means, by all forms. Much happiness in the entire world. Great celebrations in all corners and in all sights. The redemption of all and of the world is on earth. Celebrations everywhere. The liberation of all who lived imprisoned to evil matter, which is from evil origin, without knowing why you ended up like that, like rational beasts, making a mystery of everything and living there mysteriously, learning all life long without knowing anything, without knowing why you came from nothing, forming this apparent everything and ending into nothing. Then, all of the wisdom of this nothing could not by no means worth anything, and that is why the greatest brilliant is suffering. Then, be immunized and be saved is the same thing. You immunized yourself, you saved yourself. Shortly, everyone with this book in hands. No one wants to return over here anymore, with this stinky life, because wanting or not the way is this one, rational immunization. If you do not want it today, because you do not know it, a little further, you will embrace it with nails and tooth. The human being is an astrological center that receives all intuitions from the inhabitants of the stars, the thoughts, the great variety of communications. The evil inhabitants produce the negative thoughts. The meditations, plans and communications come from the good inhabitants, which produce the positive thought. The inhabitants from the astral superior produce the superior thoughts, which is the perfectly equilibrated subconscious. Therefore, the human being is an astrological center, the head being the watch or receiving apparatus. Sure, a watch but unbalanced for being variant, which results then, in those confusions of imagining man possessing a spirit in the body and is such, considering him two in only one. Man considers thought because it is invisible, as being spirit, by judging the spirit as hidden in the body, that the thought no one sees. Due to this conception of two in one, man makes this confusion of considering the thought because it is invisible, as the spirit inside the body, which is the matter. Being man an astrological center, he received those intuitions, which served for the formation of the philosophies and sects of the inhabitants from the space and from stars, which they did, in order to open that door there on earth and, in that way, be able to have contact with man. For being an astrological center, then, it is easy for man to be taken by the inhabitants of the space, configuring so, the manifestation, but it does not mean that these inhabitants from the space had been from there on earth, as they so introduced themselves, saying that they had been incarnated already. They say that to be well received, and in that conception, man has been educated and still is. That is why one thinks or admits that the inhabitants of the space are disincarnated spirits that have already inhabited earth. However, there is no incarnation of spirit of any kind. But the inhabitants of the space, for them to present themselves there and be well received, identify themselves like that, according to the environment. That is why there is no spirit of old black man. Old black man. There is no spirit of old black man in the body of anyone, like many have been thinking since long. If there was a spirit of an old black man, of course, they would not give up protecting his race to protect the races different from his, of those who sold him like animals during slavery time. If there was spirit of old black man, they would not come to protect those who made them slaves, enslaved them in everything. They would only care to protect their own race. However, they incorporate therein white men, identifying themselves as a spirit of an old black man, doing what they can, resolving what they can. That is the reason they have many followers, but they are no spirit of old black men, but inhabitants from that vacuum there, who incorporate in the mediums and identify themselves as they wish, according the education of the world. These same inhabitants who make infinity of different incorporations, claiming they are spirit of saints that came from heaven, spirit of an Indian, or of any being from there on earth, as usual, those incorporations of the mediums are no more than another mystification, like celebrations of May 13th, celebrating what? If the human being had a spirit in the body, he would not ask for protection to spirits of different families, like Indians, Africans, saints, but for the spirits of his ancestral and not to those from different families, which they never knew. All of that is fanaticism, it is the backwardness that blinds people, and they keep admitting all of that foolishness as if it was true. If there were spirit of Indians, those would not let no one live on their lands, as the spiritists reckon that the spirit of Indians are very powerful. The African ones would not let Africa be enslaved, because they have the African spirits as very powerful, with great powers, as it is known in the spiritist milieu. No one has any of that in the body, that can only be adopted by those who do not know. If there was immortality, as many people think it exists, the world would be wonderful, because the spirit, after disincarnated, would come to communicate with its relatives, with its friends, with everyone who would understand them. The spirits of the husbands would come to guide their wives, their sons, their businesses, so that their wives and sons would be happy. It would be wonderful in the world, and the immortality would be confirmed. For example, the spirits of their relatives would come to help them, protect them in all your undertakings. These are insignificant demonstrations to prove to you that there are no spirits of old black man, or of Indians, or of saints, or any other being. Then, why did all of this exist and still exists? For the lapidation of people, for taming people of remote times, which still prevails up today. In the past times, the invisible ones materialized themselves and appeared as they wanted in front of whoever it be to prove and make known the existence of the invisible beings, appearing in all forms, as a saint, as an angel, as a relative, as a stranger, as an animal. They appeared as they wished to appease and tame the human beasts. Then, you created souls, claiming that all of this was souls from another world that they were suffering for not respecting the things from earth over here. Then, all of this had its time when the people, very backward, were guided by fear, and all philosophies were born from there to catechize and appease the savage people, which, in that time, there was no instruction. The wise ones, the more wise ones, the more advanced ones were who governed everyone, with various names, according to the times. And so, everything came changing. Now, since long, with the progress of science, all of that already got into ridiculousness, because all of that is of a time when you were rude ones, guided by fear, you did not know anything, and today you are guided by science, by culture, by the scientific development. A very backward layer of the past wants all of this still to prevail, as it is there, admitting that in the body there is what does not exist, the spirit, ridiculing themselves due to lack of culture. And so, the past is very big and everything changes, lapidating trough to the times, behaviors, ways, everything after all. And now, it arrived to everyone's knowledge the final point of the world, because rational immunization is there, the final point of the world and of everyone, the beginning and the end, that through rational immunization you will return to the place of origin, which is rational plane. Due to you being rational animals, you return to your base of origin, which is of pure, clean, and perfect rationals, and as you are there, you are deformed rational animals, full of defects. Our return to the place of origin is done as follows: the world is an electric and magnetic fluidic conjunct, and we are made by that conjunct, being, then, bodies in electric and magnetic fluidic matter, due to us being originated from the fluid, or the fluid is what gave cause in the formation of this body. Once the person is immunized, the immunization catches this fluid, which gave origin to this life and to this body in electric and magnetic fluidic matter, and takes it to the place of origin. Then the person will no longer be born over here, because what made the person be born here, which is the fluid, is no longer in this rational deformation, in this body in electric and magnetic fluidic matter. Therefore, fluidic body, of fluidic origin, and because everything is fluidic, it is unstable. Everything ends, is generated, born, flourishes, and disappears due to us being matter, a product of animals, and animals destroy themselves. Then, the necessity of everyone is very large and the interest is general. To your own benefit, to embargo the suffering, it is necessary to know what rational immunization is. The anguish of people can only end through rational immunization. The equilibrium of everyone depends on rational immunization, the good of everyone is in rational immunization, finally, it is what people are most in need of, rational immunization. All the good of people depends on rational immunization. Then, care to know what rational immunization is, to finish, once for all, the suffering of your life. Once returning to your place of origin, you embargoed all suffering forever. It is what everyone needs the most, in the entire world, rational immunization, that you will get to know everyone's true natural. It is the true natural knowledge of everyone and everything, which you were not aware of, you could not know, and enchanted the way you were, you could not know. An enchanted one does not know his being of enchanted. Only in disenchanting yourself it is that you will be aware of and know the reason you were enchanted. You disenchanted yourself, you saved yourself, you were enchanted, suffering, in anguish, in the enchantment, because you did not know your state of enchanted. And so, today you know why everyone was enchanted like that, knowing the reason why the world is like that, knowing where you came from, how you came, why you came, where you are going to, why you are going, and how you are going. Therefore, read this knowledge many times, which is the disenchantment of everyone, the disenchantment of the world, for you to be immunized by rational immunization, and you will no longer be born there, in that stinky enchantment, full of torments, full of indecisions, warriors defeated by suffering, by death. But the enchanted one is in illusion with the illusions, with the fantasies, he is blind because he is enchanted. He is regressing, destroying himself, and the illusion tells him that he is progressing, because he is unaware of the progress of degeneration, that everyone is going to wane, until reaching the extinction, by the multiplication of the degeneration of the beings. Everything that multiplies, degenerates and decreases, until it comes to nothing. Notice the durations of the people of other times, notice the duration of people of today, how much you have already waned, how much you have already diminished, and from here on forward, each time more, due to the progress of degeneration, not reaching the total extermination, because there it is, rational immunization, for everyone to return to your base of origin, which is rational plane, due to you being of that origin, reason why you are rational animals. Then, everyone integrated within rational immunization, due to it being the true natural of everyone, which you did not know, you are knowing now. In a very short time, everyone immunized, due to all having the true solution of the world and of this anguishing life, which everyone lives due to having life, but not because there is pleasure in living, especially when the person gets real about what this life is, a gallows of unexpected and unexplainable surprises, due to life not having any warranties and you being there, exposed to all suffering. This life which everyone struggles without any rewards, the reward is the constant suffering and death, for not having who to appeal for any more, as never had anyone to appeal for. What for? If to whom you appeal for could solve anything, the world would since long be a paradise already, but what one sees is the multiplication of suffering, and for being out of your true place, suffering is the biggest brilliant in the world. Fluids. The fluid is the generator of all beings. The fluid is what generates the microbes, the viruses, after all kinds of beasts, animals, vegetables, and that is why the fluid is the causer of all these animals, beasts, and organisms. Therefore, in the fluids are the most powerful forces of nature. The evil fluid generates evil beings and the good fluid generates good beings. So, in the fluids are the causes and origins of this apparent everything, which comes from nothing and returns to nothing, comes from animals and ends in animals. Therefore, in the fluids is the everything of the apparent everything, the everything of nothing, which ends in nothing. Today you are alive, tomorrow are dead, composes and decomposes, builds and destroys. Then, there is infinity of fluids, all different, of all colors and various sizes, that is why there are animals of all sizes, down to the microgerms, to the microvirus, and those the lenses cannot see. The same way you do not see the fluids, but feel them, there are viruses and microviruses that the lenses cannot see them, as there are no lenses to see the fluids. All of this due to the formation of nature being of an electric and magnetic fluidic conjunct, which are the two forces causers of the electric and magnetic life. The electric fluid gets together with the magnetic fluid, they are two in one. All of this, fluidically, to prove to you that all nature and its creation is fluidic, and the fluid is the causer of all generation, of all formation, of all beings, and all of them are different, and for this, all are different from one another, as everything is different. In races, the species is only one, but all are different from one another due to this infinity of fluids, all different, originating all of those differences. Consequently, in the fluids is the most powerful force of generation and creation. Then, the good fluid does well and the evil fluid does ill, and so, all diseases, whatever kind, they are fluidics, from fluidic origin. The person immunized by the good fluid is free from being a victim of the bad fluid, due to being immunized by the good fluid. This fluidic treatment is the true treatment of the body in fluidic matter, and all cures are from fluidic origin. This is the true remedy to the health conservation, with the body being immunized by the good fluid. And to acquire the good fluid, only in rational immunization. Care to know what rational immunization is to become rationally immunized? Once rationally immunized, you get in contact with the inhabitants from rational plane, you get in contact with rational superior, receiving the precise orientations for the good march and equilibrium of life. To immunize means, uniting oneself with the pure ones from rational plane, understand with the pure ones, to know your origin. You were enchanted, about your origin you knew nothing, you were aware of nothing. You disenchanted yourself. In that moment you got all knowledge and clarification about your origin of rational, that for being from rational origin, you got deformed and became rational animals, and now, returning to your place of origin, through rational immunization, which clarifies the reason why you became like that and what you were before you were like this, where you came from, how you came, and why you came, where you are going to, how you are going to your place of origin, through rational immunization. Once immunized, the immunization catches the fluid that gave origin to this body and takes it to its place of origin, which is rational plane. Care to immunize yourselves, for you to be immunized by the good fluid and not become victims of the bad fluid, transmitter of diseases, like cancer and others. And so, everything is fluid. Fluids transformed into iron, fluids transformed into rocks, fluids transformed into gum, that the beginning was from the gum of the plane and everything generates from the gum. The gum is what generates the human being, the gum is what generates all beings. Then, the bones come from a gum, the teeth are from gum origin, the hair is from gum origin, the nails are from gum origin. Hard gum like iron, hard gum like rocks, hard gum like bones. The gum transforming into beings that melt, that end, because they came from a gum. Hard gum, rather soft gum, which came from the water of the plain that became soft with the heat, each time softer, it turned into a gum, and each time more melted by the heat, it turned into water. Then, everything is from water origin and from gum origin, which gave the origin of all beings that are there, and due to them being made of fluids, everything melts itself and ends. The beginning was of water, everything started with water, and everything melts and ends in water. Isn't spermatozoa a gum? From that the human being comes, and so do all beings. Everything is hard gum transformed, and because it is fluid, it ends as nothing. Then, all bodies are electric and magnetic fluids. That is why if there is no sun, there is no heat. If there is no heat, there is no fluid. If there is no fluid, there are no beings. And so, the fluid is everything and the beings are nothing, because they end, they transform into what they were, because nothing ends, but get transformed due to being deformed. Today is new, tomorrow is old, there it is, the action of the effects of the fluids. How the equilibrium arises. First, the fluid of rational immunization. Second, the electric and magnetic fluid. Due to you being electric and magnetic apparatus, made by this electric and magnetic fluidic conjunct, that is the reason the communication being natural. The fluid of rational immunization is from everyone's place of origin, that is why you are rational animals. Once oriented by your base of origin, through the rational fluid, evil will cease, all illness will cease, because it is the positive base, because from there the perfect equilibrium comes, the experiences cease, everything will be all right due to being rational. You will be right in everything, and you will always be from good to better, due to the orientation being rational, done by the rational fluid. Then, the experiences cease. You will no longer need to live from experiences, as you have always lived, always experimenting to get it right or not. The rational fluid provides the perfect adjustment, the perfect equilibrium of everyone, due to it being rational, the true base of the origin of everyone, which is rational plane, which is from where everyone came and to where everyone is going. Whereas, staying as you were, under the influence of this unbalanced base of the deformation, of the enchantment, you could never have found the desired equilibrium, which you have been seeking since long. Since long you have been searching through all means for the equilibrium of the world and of everyone, but you have never found it, nor could find it, for being under the influence of the deformed fluid, therein the electric and magnetic enchantment. For being deformed and being under this action of the electric and magnetic fluid, it is that the disequilibrium of everyone has always reigned. Everyone looking for equilibrium in the world, and each time more unbalanced, due to the electric and magnetic action being destructive. The electric and magnetic fluid is from the destructive enchantment part, it is the fluid of matter, the fluid of evil, the fluid that only does evil, for being magnetic and electric, and for this, you are always in search of the true good, and you have never found it but only the apparent good. The person is well today, he seems to be well today, tomorrow he is ill, because everything is appearances. Today you are young, in illusion with the appearances, tomorrow you are old, then come the disillusions, and you say, how I deceived myself with this life, searching for good and well until today and never finding them. So, the electric and magnetic apparatus, which are the human beings, lived dominated by those two electric and magnetic fluids, and ended up in that disequilibrium, searching equilibrium without finding it and without knowing why you were like that or why you are like that. Today you know the reason for everyone's disequilibrium, the causer for everyone's disequilibrium, which is the electric and magnetic fluid, due to you being under the dominion of those two deformed fluids of the deformation, which is an electric and magnetic fluidic conjunct. The human beings, for being made by that formation, you are electric and magnetic apparatus, driven and oriented by the electric and magnetic fluid, you could never find the equilibrium in any way, as you indeed never found it, and that is why today is one thing, tomorrow another, afterwards something else, and so on. You could never find happiness due to the disequilibrium of these varying forces, which make the beings be all variance and make the disequilibrium reign. As you see nature, how much unbalanced it is, and so all the beings, due to the electric and magnetic action from rational origin, for being from rational plane and communicating with your base of origin, your place of origin, through the rational fluid. Everyone receiving this fluid. Due to you being electric and magnetic apparatus, the rational fluid gets in the apparatus, in the eye of the person, and gets rid of the perturbing electric and magnetic fluid, and the person is then guided and oriented by the fluid of your true natural, of your base of rational origin. Then, everything works right, because what is rational does not deviate from its being, everything goes in an equilibrium, everything works right being right in everything, the experiences ending, the doubts due to the magnetic and the electric being out of the human being action. Then, it is there, how the equilibrium will arise to everyone and how the true happiness will arise. Instead of you being guided by the destructive electric and magnetic fluid, you will be guided by the fluid of your true natural. With the electric and magnetic, you were bad and lived badly, and with the fluid of the true natural, everything is very different, from good to better. Then, the disequilibrium is done by the electric and magnetic, and the equilibrium is through the rational fluid. It is there, the fluid of good and happiness, which is the rational fluid, and the evil fluid, which is the electric and magnetic. Everyone wants good, not evil. Everyone is in search of good, and not of evil. Then, grab to the rational fluid, the fluid of your true natural, which is the rational fluid of rational immunization. The origin is this one, due to that you are rational animals, and for everyone's sake, only the fluid of everyone's true natural, and not those deformed electric and magnetic fluids, which are the causers of all ruins in the world, of all evil, because those two fluids do not allow people to stop thinking, due to them being electric and magnetic apparatus, and from that, the disequilibrium. The person does not stop thinking, and the disequilibrium comes about the head, which is the watch, where both the electric and magnetic fluids work. Due to not stopping thinking, you start to vary, and that is why you are crazy appearing to be well, mad appearing to be well, and turning the world into a hospice, due to everyone thinking differently, due to everyone varying like that. The disequilibrium of the beings, produced by that electric and magnetic variation, is due to the true natural of the humans not being this deformed one, but you are indeed from rational origin, and for being from rational origin, for you to be equilibrated, only through the fluid of your true natural, the rational fluid. Due to you being from rational origin, you are rational animals. Then, for you to become immunized and receive the rational fluid, you need to read with persistence to know what rational immunization is. It is not reading one time, because you forget and later you will not know anything. It is necessary to read every day until you know and know how to relate and talk about what rational immunization is. Then, there it is, first, the fluid of your base of origin, the rational fluid, second, the same fluid, and third, the same fluid, and always everything in your base of origin, rational plane.